Good morning and welcome to TCCA 2020. This year, as we are bringing you TCCA a little differently, and we are excited to deliver amazing professional development to educators all over the world. I would like to introduce you to the TEALS team. And right now we have Nugma, and we are soon going to be joined by Tonya. And then we have Marilyn, who's on here too, that's going to be helping in the back channel. I have my co-host here, Anna, who's also supporting. And we're all here to make sure that you have a great session. Let me start off by introducing our first guest. And after graduating from Stanford University with a master's in education, Nugma taught students from diverse backgrounds. While teaching, she also earned her master's degree in management information systems. She has shared her newfound knowledge by leading the first Python classes on her campus. She also volunteers in the community to support advanced education programming. So we're going to welcome Nugma. I'm also going to introduce Tonya. She should be joining us momentarily, but she had a small technical issue. She started off selling IBM computer software and services to the education industry when classroom computers and technologies were first being installed. And the IBM PC was a big deal. So hopefully we remember when that was. Her classroom experience includes 7 years teaching math and computer science in high school. Over the years, she has had the privilege to be involved in with workforce development and training programs, and she is passionate about closing that gap and making an impact in the computer science educational space. So I am going to now turn it over and welcome Tonya to the screen.
Good morning.
Hey, Tonya. And Tonya, I literally just finished your bio. I just read your bio. So you are, yes, ma'am, I did. So I want to welcome both of these ladies, and I want to tell everyone to give them a shout out in the chat. Whoop, whoop. And I'm turning it over to you all.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Shana. We really appreciate your support. And Shana's going to jump back into the presentation in a little bit because she has a wealth of knowledge that I think y'all will be interested in. But I am here talking to you from Houston, Texas to share about the TEALS program. It is truly an impactful program working on the ground level with teachers and students and folks who just want to help out. So I'm really excited. We're going to take the next little bit here to walk through the program a little more in depth. But I hope in the Do Now you've had a moment to, figure out in the chat your professional title and the school or district that you represent. We just love to know who's in our audience and who we're talking to here. And feel free, please share out questions as we go. You don't have to wait till the end, but we will have some time in the end to talk a little bit. During the presentation, I'm going to be referring to lots of documents and really helpful links. And instead of you trying to jot them all down on the side really quickly, we wanted to put it all in one place for you. So you can actually go to aka.ms/TEALS information. And that will have just a handout with all of our really helpful links and things you might want to refer to later. So please feel free to keep that one link. And then as we go, if you want to check out other ones, you're welcome to. Tonya, anything else I'm missing? We're good? Right, then let's get started. So I think Shana already introduced myself and Tonya, but we also have the wonderful Marilyn with us. She is our third Houston Regional Manager, and that's something I want to share with you, that our program has grown so much in the last 4 years. We started off with 1 regional manager, and then we had 2, and now we have 3 great people supporting all of the teachers and students in the Houston TEALS team. So what is TEALS? Oh, I'm sorry?
And that's 3 in as many years. So every year we are adding enough schools for a single regional manager to support. So thanks to you all and your great participation, that is possible. And I told the team this week, it's like, we need to keep that going. So this time next year, we hope to report that we have a 4th.
Definitely. That's the hope. So I'm going to flip my sharing screen, so give me one moment, because I want to share a video with you that'll explain kind of in a nutshell what TEALS is, from the folks who benefit from the program. But before I do that, just a quick overview. We are team teaching computer science. So we're partnering volunteers in the field who have 9-to-5 jobs, who work in various companies around the city and around the country and Canada, right? US and Canada. We're partnering them with computer science teachers, right, to help support them as they teach CS. Oftentimes they're teaching a new curricula or something for the first time. The program is free in terms of the volunteer matching and support. There are a few small costs associated with whatever curriculum is chosen, but we'll get into those details a little later. Right now, let me share this video with you so you can hear from our awesome folks. So here we go.
Lincoln is a great school. It's an urban high school here in the heart of Silicon Valley. Most of our students don't have parents in tech.
Parents don't know how to encourage their kids. They may believe that their kid can't access those opportunities, or they may not know that the opportunity exists.
There's so many job openings that we don't even have the people to fill them. Why can't we homegrown our students to be tech ready? We need to be in that race. It is challenging to start a new computer science class. Teachers are very busy, and having a partnership with TEALS, it made it a much smoother transition. Having people from the high-tech industry come to your classroom teaching content and concepts of computer science made it much easier.
I brought my brother into robotics because there's not enough opportunities at his middle school. Technology has changed me. It's made my technical communication, presentation, and my leadership skills better.
We want to make a better world for all students and give them all the opportunities that they can get. And if the technology is where they are meant to be and they simply don't have access to it, that is a tragedy.
As teachers, we need to prepare our students so that they're career ready.
Okay, I am going to flip back to our presentation here, but I love that video because you're really hearing from the folks.
Sure that we are looking at the role that technology
Oh, so sorry.
to address issues of equity.
Sorry. So I love that presentation because it really highlights what we're doing and why we're doing it, right? At the end of the day, we want to bring access to computer science to all students and help them see themselves as people in this field, because the more diversity, the more inclusion we have into this field, the more likely we are to represent folks from different backgrounds. And computer science is something that everyone's lives is touched by. So we are really excited to bring this work to everyone. So TEALS stands for Technology, Education, and Literacy in Schools, and it is formally a part of the Microsoft Philanthropies program. And so we take CS professionals, we take folks who just do this day in, day out as a profession, who really do want to work with students and who have a heart to give back. I think that is one of the most amazing parts of this program, that we have so many people in the industry who just say, I wish I had someone when I was in high school who shared with me how great CS is. And with the TEALS program, we find those volunteers and you have great access to those people who are passionate about CS education. And then on the other side, we've got teachers. teachers who are doing so many things for their students and who want to bring CS to them. But at the end of the day, it can be a little overwhelming, right? To teach something that you may not have practical experience with is very daunting. So when I was in the classroom, I know just even trying to figure out what curriculum to use was tricky. So we find those teachers who could use the support from the volunteers, and we say, look, teachers, you have this potential to bring this content to so many people in the future. Let us partner you with some industry professionals who can really grow your skills. So we bring that community of teachers and volunteers together. We also provide free open source curricula resources and partner with other curriculum providers who may charge slightly if you choose to go with them. So we have lots of curriculum options that our volunteers will support to build out that pathway. Right? If CS students don't have access to the full range of courses in high school, it's much less likely that they'll try to take those classes in college and beyond. I was one of those students. I started off as, I'm all about reading and ELA, and I think that was really important, but I kind of shut off that science part of my brain until much later in life. And when I did access it, I was like, oh my gosh, this stuff is amazing. Why did I not take advantage of this earlier? And so now I'm so grateful that I have the opportunity to work with TEALS and bring that CS learning to everyone. So we offer resources, we offer training to volunteers and to classroom teachers to help build out their CS knowledge. And then we also, as regional managers, Tonya, Marilyn, and myself, will offer support to help that partnership grow, right? To make sure folks are communicating well and working together. We'll also talk a little bit more about our remote or in-person volunteer support shortly. So our program, as we talked about earlier on the regional manager introduction slide, has grown a great deal. It started off with one school in one location out in the Pacific Northwest with one Microsoft employee who was also a former high school educator. His name was Kevin Wang, and he decided to volunteer in a high school while he was working at Microsoft. And by the end of that semester, he had more requests from other high schools that were like, can you find volunteers for us as well? So from that point, we grew to about 85,000 students across 29 states, the District of Columbia, British Columbia, and British Columbia, Canada. And this year, we're even, even more excited to say that we're growing in 6 new regions. So if you look at those blue stars, especially if you see in the Southeast, we have added those regions specifically to address some of the social injustices that we have seen as a program across the country. And we really want to help bring CS education to students in those areas. So our Black and African American students are going to have the benefit of that volunteer support in our 6 new regions this coming school year. And by the numbers, you can see on the top portion, the numbers for us as a program in the 2020-21 school year. And in the bottom portion, you can see how we're doing in Houston specifically. We are in 35 TEALS schools currently, and we have 4 alumni schools, which means that once a teacher and a school has built out that pathway and is feeling confident, we say, you are now in our alumni program. We're going to continue that support. But, we are still here for you, but, you no longer have that regular volunteer support. And so we're so pleased that folks are growing and advancing in our program. We have 43 CS classes this year, 972 students that we are serving with our volunteers, and 37% of those are female, which is really exciting because traditionally the number of female students in CS classes is not as high as we would like. So we are hoping to grow that percentage even more in the coming school year. We work with 73 different companies across Houston. This is not just a Microsoft employee program. We reach out to CS professionals in a variety of fields and industries because, like I said earlier, they just want to give back, and it's really great to work with them. It's a total of 128 tech volunteers here. So how do we support our school? I'm going to get a little bit more into the nitty-gritty parts here, and Tanya's going to jump in the next slide to continue. But, you know, like I said earlier, we want to grow that teacher and grow that school through the pathway. And so we have 3 different formats. The first is co-teach model, which is the most intense model. So in that one, the volunteers will literally come deliver direct instruction. They will ask those Socratic questions. They will even help grade if that's what the teacher needs, 90 to 20% of the content. And the reason why we have 90 to 20% rather than 20 to 90 is because it usually starts off around 90% of the volunteers doing the work, and then it slowly, gradually decreases to 20% of the work being done by the volunteers. So that's a co-teach model. And, you know, they will, you know, support in so many ways, but some things we expect the classroom teacher to do is continue doing the behavioral management of students. We want the teacher to really be the lead learner, right? Really learn that computer science and make sure that they are growing their own knowledge of how to teach the subject, complete all the assignments, and lead lessons as they feel comfortable. Our teachers come in at a variety of levels, and so we want to meet them where they are, especially in a co-teach model. Volunteers will come 4 to 5 days a week and support classes. So we'll support with about 3 to 4 volunteers in this model. As the teacher feels more comfortable, we'll head into a lab support model where the volunteer will do about 20% of the support. So rather than doing direct instruction every day, it'll most likely be more, let me walk around during lab and help students, and the classroom teacher can hear how the volunteers talk about the concepts, and they'll just be there as a support if the teacher doesn't know a particular concept. We want the teacher to continue refining their CS knowledge 2 to 5 days a week. And then our graduation model is where the teacher is at 100% of instruction. Volunteers are not in there every day. They're independent, but there is an online community where they can ask questions and even get a guest speaker in. So that's the support models, and Tanya's going to take it away with what curriculum we support.
All right. Thank you, Nagma. So up on the screen, you'll see that we basically support 3 computer science courses out of a 4-year path. And the interesting part is that we actually do support the fundamentals as well, if depending on if it's done with the CS Discoveries curriculum. But in essence, 3 of the 4 pathway classes, we support the Intro to Computer Science class, which is the CS1 class, generally has an algebra as a prerequisite requirement. We support those in co-teach and lab support models. We have variations and flavors of the class, if you will. Our traditional curriculum includes first semester of SNAP, which is a Scratch-like development environment. And then the second semester, we move the students into Python, getting them accustomed to an easy to grasp text-based language. We've got variations on that. Some folks offer it as a 1 semester course each semester, and they might do the SNAP first and second semester. Some folks start and do the Python all year. We have a relationship now with Carnegie Mellon, and they have a version of Python that a class that goes all year as well. So there are variations on that, and the links are there in the bottom if you want to seek more information on the Intro to Computer Science class. The second class that we support is the AP Computer Science Principles course, which just started in the 16-17 school year. It's the newest course to the computer science, to the AP suite. And I should point out here that computer science is, other than English, is one of the only content areas that actually offers 2 AP course credits. So we're proud of that, and it underscores the importance. This class, if you've not heard of it, was developed by College Board specifically to grow interest in computer science. we were seeing numbers decreasing every year, if you will, for the AP Computer Science A test. It's like students just couldn't get to that rigorous level, and so the computer science principles class kind of brings them in and introduces them to it, and it covers breadth, not depth, and talks about the larger scope and how computer science applies to all industries. And we know that fundamentally and theoretically in our minds, we know that everything that we are involved in society now is impacted by computer science and by technology. And so we're making that connection for students in that AP Computer Science Principles class. You can kind of consider it like the Internet of Things description, right? It's like everything we do requires compute technology. College Board partnered with several curriculum providers to develop materials for that class. They are endorsed curriculum, and you can find out more information about those via the AKAMS in the link and in your handout. The AP Computer Science A is that more rigorous course that, oh, I should point out, AP Computer Science Principles correlates to computer science for non-majors at the post-secondary level. AP Computer Science A, on the other hand, is the first introduction to computer science for college at the post-secondary level for college freshmen. And that is the more rigorous class. It is based on Java. So we move them from Python or easily adoptable text-based languages to the more rigorous Java platform. People ask us all the time, why don't we consider more companies and businesses are using Python in a production capacity? But the short answer to that is we follow College Board, right? If College Board says the test is in Java, then that's what we teach. When they change, because 20 years ago, it used to be in Pascal. So when they change, we'll change. But we do support that course as well. One thing to note, this is the first year the College Board has endorsed curricula for Computer Science A, interestingly enough. It is the oldest computer science course for College Board, but this is the first year that they've actually done endorsements for it. And there are a number of endorsed curricula. And as far as TEALS is concerned, anybody that follows the College Board endorsed framework will support. So when you look at those providers, you'll see options. It's really exciting because the number of curricula that are offered now for AP Computer Science A is tremendous. So we're just thrilled at the strides that we're making in this space. And of course, there's the link for the Computer Science A courses there. Thank you. All right, so I want to address remote instruction because Nugma pointed out the ways that we support classes, and I talked about the curricula, and I want to point out here that we'll support any of the curricula in any of our models using remote technology. And we've been doing this for 6 or 7 years now. We didn't just begin with the onset of COVID. Obviously now, the remote, prior to this year, campuses were very hesitant sometimes to engage in a remote instruction delivery method. But what we've discovered now, of course, is that guess what? We can do it. It's okay. We're comfortable with it. It's viable. We do intentionally have to make choices on how we deliver instruction, and we have to modify some of the tools in our tool bag and the tips and tricks that we use on a regular basis. But guess what? We can do it. And so we've been doing this for a while. Our remote program manager is phenomenal at supporting our teams that have been teaching remote. Because quite honestly, that was the only way that we could support some of our rural campuses. In some of those urban, what we call tech desert areas, we've had to support remotely. So we know how to do this in our space. And so we can work with you certainly on that. We've got technology that we've been using. It's called Neuro. It provides breakout rooms and the ability for volunteers to take students off in smaller groups, either in support them one-on-one or in groups when they're doing paired programming. There are lots of benefits, if you will, to remote instruction. From our model perspective, one of the great benefits is that we can recruit volunteers from all over the country. So we and Nugma, Maryland, and I are so thrilled because we have 15 Microsoft employees supporting our classes here in Houston, some of which are actually from our headquarter office in Redmond. And so there are other benefits with that. Companies like Microsoft provide also support, like matching support. And some of you may know people who do that, where they volunteer. Their companies will match either if they write a check or if they give their time. And so, excuse me, there are other benefits to remote instruction as well. I had last year or 2 years ago, I had a Google engineer from New York supporting one of my classes. So it's really, really exciting. So even though those companies aren't physically here in Houston, guess what? Our kids can have access to them through the remote instruction delivery model. Oh, I should say, I'm sorry, go back. I forgot. I got so excited talking about the other thing. I forgot what you need. Well, everybody knows what you need now. So you need a camera. We do ask that the schools put in a classroom camera in a traditional non-COVID space where the students are all in the classroom, the volunteers are remote, and the teacher and the students are in the class. We'd like for to have a whole camera classroom in addition to the students having their own individual webcams. Preferably, of course, they'd have headsets and mics where they could communicate directly with the volunteers and participate in the conversation. There we go. I don't know what that was. Thanks. All right. Want to kind of switch gears a little bit and talk about diversity and inclusion. Nugma pointed out that the starred schools, the starred regions on that map where we are expanding into the southeast region area of the country, we are committed to diversity and inclusion as an organization. Our CEO came out in July and laid out a plan for Microsoft's response to racial injustice and the steps that we are planning to take. Interestingly enough, even prior to COVID, this is the first year, so it's not just a COVID or I shouldn't even relate it to COVID, but it's not just a 2020 response. We have committed to diversity and inclusion in computer science classes throughout the program, but specifically beginning in the 2021 school year. So the applications for school partnership this year for the first time had a requirement or a section for schools to address what steps they were going to take to address diversity and inclusion from the enrollment perspective, from the instructional delivery perspective, and from the classroom environment perspective. So even before George Floyd and the craziness of 2020, we had that incorporated into our school application. So I do want to point out, it's not a knee-jerk reaction to to what's been happening this year, but it is intentional and it has been a part of our objectives overall for a while. And so some of the things that we're asking campuses to do is to reach out here in Texas in particular, because of the way that our students are asked to select an endorsement or select their pathways. We know that students need to be exposed to computer science and programming at the middles prior to getting to high school. And so one of the things that we're encouraging our classes in our schools to do is to take students down and let them show their projects to the 8th grade. Having speakers come to the parent night and the course selection and the pathway selection fairs and the elective course fairs, so that students can be aware of what is available in STEM and computer science for them to select as an endorsement pathway. So we here in Houston have a group of young ladies that they go around to schools and talk. We have Girls Who Code clubs. We are encouraging campuses, and Aldine is off the charts. I think they're the largest Girls Who Code club district in the state, and we love working with you guys. But we are encouraging all of our schools to do that. One of my campuses in Cold Spring, Oak Horse, they have country girls code. So Black girls code, we are really looking to increase enrollment and diversify. We believe that the computer science classroom should look like the school demographics, whatever the school demographics are. If you have a 1% yellow, 2% blue, 4% red, and 90% green, right? Your computer science class needs to look like that. And so that's the position that we're taking. And that's the challenge that we are asking our schools to rise to. Since it's not mandated, since we don't have reading, science, or English, math, social studies, and science and computer science as a fifth core, then we want it to, we just want to make sure that schools are addressing that and not sending exclusion signals, if you will. And then we're encouraging teachers and volunteers to make sure that the instruction is inclusive so that the projects have choice, that students are not only relegated to sci-fi type topics. We want to make sure that they feel comfortable that the instruction and the examples used are relevant to their own space. And then, of course, the learning space. We don't want it to look sterile. And we want it to be a warm and inviting place. I know that my own daughter, when she was a sophomore, took computer science, and it was like blank walls. She was one of two girls, I think the only Black student in the class, and she absolutely refused to take the second class, and it hurt my heart. But you know, what do you do? So diversity and inclusion is important to us. Sorry.
Definitely. No, you're good. And I think I'd add that there's a lot that can be done in this space, and it can be overwhelming. And one thing regional managers do is help focus the tasks that the school wants to accomplish that coming year. So those example school commitments are what we engage in during the application process to narrow down, like, okay, what are the one or two things we really want to focus on per area for the coming school year?
Yep. And in as much as we can, we like to provide support to do that.
Definitely.
All right, so our volunteers. So that is there. We like to call our volunteers as the special sauce to the TEALS program. Nugma mentioned that they come from companies all throughout. It's not just a Microsoft program or an Apple or an Amazon or Google or a Facebook, especially here in the Houston area where our primary industries are medical and oil and gas. So we've got volunteers from, believe it or not, Chase Bank supplies our largest number of volunteers here in the Houston area. Schlumberger is a close second, but who would have thunk it, right? It's like, but Chase Bank, actually in the state of Texas, the financial services industry, I think, is our leading industry because we've got State Farm, USAA, and I think Prudential in some of the other major areas in Austin and Dallas. And so financial services has been good for TEALS Texas. But our volunteers they come from those spaces, and they have all different types of backgrounds. So we train them in the summer so they have the content knowledge. Like Nugma said, they come into the classroom and they help deliver based upon teacher skill set. So if a teacher feels like he or she can teach 50% of the curriculum, it's like, go for it. We only bring the volunteers in to address the content areas where they're not as comfortable. One of the teachers that came in couple of years ago, he's like, I've been teaching this. He's like, but every time we get to this section about recursion and lists as objects and some of these other more advanced topics, he's like, I kind of struggle. So I would like to have the volunteer, and we brought him in, and we will meet teachers wherever they are. So the volunteers bring the content knowledge. The teachers bring the pedagogical skills. We marry the two. So in the summer, we train volunteers. We give them about 40 hours of training where we go over a teacher toolkit, right? Or the tool belt, whatever you want to call it. But we talk about formative and summative assessments, warm-ups, do-nows. How do we question students appropriately using Socratic questioning techniques and other methods, without making sure that we don't give students answers, right? So when you're with your colleague, if somebody asks you how to do something, you tell them and you move on. And you might even show them, it's like, do it like this. It's like, no, that's not how we do students. We're teaching them how to learn as part of this process. And so we work with volunteers in that space and helping them to understand the adolescent mind and the high school environment and how to be most effective in that space. This is a picture of Jovel. He's a student in Detroit. One of the things I point this out because even though TEALS is based as or developed as a professional development model for teachers and students benefit from it, but this is a specific student opportunity that we are preparing them for. And so he was able to get a summer internship, and it just changed the way his trajectory for life. And so students do gain opportunities and benefits from the program as well. So we don't want to say that all the focus is on teachers, but obviously students seeing volunteers come into the classroom, they make that connection that, hey, real people do this. Like, this could be my next door neighbor. And it's something that is doable. So there are opportunities for students, and we look for those as well. Two of our students in HISD got externships at Schlumberger in like manner. So those things happen for us, and we are excited for those opportunities for students as well. Next one. So now we bring up Shayna Glass. So Shayna introduced me, and now I get to introduce her. Just so you guys know, so I taught computer science in high school. That was my last teaching stint. I started in math. But Shayna, actually, I attended one of her sessions. You know I'm going to do it. I attended one of her sessions at TCEA. I think it was Nearpod. I can't even remember. I think it was a Nearpod session. But I was so excited. And of course, all of these other teachers were in there. She was like, "Oh, you're high school?" And I was like, he's like, "But this is fun." She's like, "You need to teach computer science at the high school level." And I was like, yeah, maybe. Okay. So anyway, here I am, how many, over 6 years, 6 or 7 years later, I've taught computer science. So she was kind of my spark. But right now she holds multiple hats. She's my superhero, my shero. But Shayna is the regional manager with code.org. So she handles all of their professional development organization for the Houston region. She is also our fearless CSTA Houston region chapter lead president. And so we're excited for that because so much is happening in the Houston area. And of course, she's Aldine, and you guys know her and love her from here. So I will let her tell the Aldine story.
I know y'all didn't realize that I was coming on screen. I didn't realize I was coming on screen. She told me this. I was like, "You crazy."
Yes.
Okay, so I'm gonna be very brief. But the story, my story evolves over time. So it started with me doing just what Tonya just said. I went to a session. We were at TCEA, and someone brought us to the side and said, "You should come to our code.org session. We're doing workshops." And I was like, "Sure, of course. That sounds like fun." Got up on a Saturday, always at Forever Learner. So my weekends, this was pre my child, so that was a long time ago. So I went on a Saturday and was hooked, actually hooked by the vision and the mission that every child and anyone can learn how to code. And from there, I became infectious. And I came back and I just started training and training and training. Months after I attended that first session, I ended up getting selected from code.org to become a facilitator. And that allowed me to even expand even more. And then I was sharing with my boss my compassion. And she said, "Well, maybe you should just take this over." And, and I thought she was crazy. But I did. And we shifted all of our middle school courses and our middle school teachers to teach computer science primarily. So all of our tech apps teachers just shifted, and they got hooked. They were trained. But when you do that and the teachers are infectious, then the teachers then expand that to the students. And those students who started in 6th grade eventually got to 8th grade and they took the course for high school credit. And then now we have all of these students that don't have a place to go in high school. And, you know, it sounds odd, but here at Aldine, which is why I was always talking to Tonya, we didn't offer it. And so that made me really have to go out and figure it out. So once we have teachers, then you have the student interest, then you're forced to expand. And I put on here expand CS lower and higher. That means you have to draw that interest in. You have to draw that interest with your younger students first. You have to build a foundation, and you have to create that pipeline or that pathway for them. And we are blessed that the state has just, with House Bill 3, has just funded computer science, provided weighted funding for all of their courses. So then you continuously train in support with TEALS and co.org and all of these other platforms. Our savior here in the state is We Teach CS, if all of you know what I'm talking about. They provide the top tier of training with all of the umbrellas. But partnership is key, right? Partnership is key. So we partner with all of these different companies and organizations. We partner with Code. We partner with TEALS. We actually have a grant with NIMSI, which is the National Math and Science Initiative. We are partnered with AFE, as I know HISD and Dallas ISD are. We are the only 3 in the state that are partnered with Amazon Future Engineer for our elementary campuses. And of course, every single one of you should be partnered with CSTA. Every single person in this room should become a CSTA member. If you're not, join the session at 3 o'clock this afternoon. So go take a break, come back. But the key is to plan early and always look forward. Don't stay within this year. Keep it going. And as Tonya and Emma both said, overall, you have to make sure that equity is an essential step every step of the way. Always know who your target audience is, who you are focused on, and your purpose. Every single one of you in here, your purpose is to educate students for the next generation. Think about that keynote. Think about what Michael said. To do better, we must be better. And being better is looking at not this century, this generation, not our generation, but theirs. What's next? What's coming? These students need to be prepared. You can't do it on a worksheet. I did tweet that out while I'm in here listening. It's important that these students realize their future. And I mentioned about artificial intelligence versus a worksheet. Don't teach a kid how to fill out a worksheet, how to strategize a piece of paper. Have them to think about how they can program. So that's all I have. That is my journey, my story. There's more, of course, but I did it in 3 minutes.
No, that's so powerful, Shana. Thank you so much for sharing, because I think it's we can talk here at TEALS about the partnerships, but then when it's on the ground level, how do you use those partnerships in the bigger picture? It's so great to hear you kind of explain that more in depth.
Right.
And
can I interject one thing too? I'm sorry,
No,
I know I talk for a long time, but I do want to say, so in this whole planning process, like Shannon said, she looked at that and has put a lot of energy and effort into the Aldine plan, and I laud it all the time and hold it up as a stellar vision. But she was planning, we were going to ease into this. I just have to say this because good things fall into place, right? Like it happens and it grows organically. So she was going to start at the 9th grade centers with the basic intro class. And guess what? NIMSI, National Math and Science Institute, I always forget to not talk in acronyms, although I'm sure everybody here understands, but had a grant. Shayna was like, "Ooh, a grant." So then we ended up bringing in the comprehensive high schools with AP Computer Science principles too. So we went from a basic, I think we're going to do 4 or 5 schools to start, kind of ease in. So we're in 9 schools. So, but that's fine. We're jumping in. The teachers have all been great to work with, and so I just want to say, good things follow, and these things will come, right? So we encourage you to get involved too. Sorry, I'm going to
No,
mute myself.
and to start that conversation, right? I mean, it all starts with a simple conversation. So I encourage everyone to go to our site, microsoft.com/teals, and to also, if you want to see all those links that have been referenced on the slides, go to aka.ms/teals information, TEALS information, because that will have links to everything that we've talked about, because I think for some of us, we need to let it percolate and see what the possibilities are. But if you just even reach out, follow us on Twitter, you'll get those reminders and be connected. So we only have a few minutes left here. So there are, a lot of details to talk about with TEALS. I'm not going to get into them too in depth because we can have that conversation later. But I do want to point out again, I mentioned it earlier, the potential costs of the school are really very minimal. It's costs incurred by the volunteers. For example, if you would like them to do a certain background check, please make sure the school or the district is covering those costs, not the volunteers. Any curricular resources you choose to use, TEALS provides free open source curricula for our intro level classes, and then there's various options for the rest. And then any kind of hardware that Tonya referred to earlier, headphones, computers and whatnot, because those will stay with the school. But other than that, for the actual services of the volunteers and from the regional managers, that's all at no cost to the school or the districts. I mean, even neuro is currently covered by TEALS. We ask that it's the first period of the day. So, we do want to work with the school and the counselors and the schedule makers to make sure that our volunteers can come in the morning, volunteer, and then head off to their workday for that TEALS supported class. We ask, of course, that the diversity and inclusion guide is filled out, that the schools help with volunteer recruitment. The regional managers will do a lot to support there, but some of our best volunteers really come from folks who are related to people at the school. We do ask for some data to help support our growth and improvement as a program. And really, it comes down, like Tonya mentioned, it's professional development for the teacher. So we really are looking for those candidates, right? People who have some years of classroom management experience and teaching experience. They are willing to put in the time to come to training, to lead that teaching team, and to encourage students to enroll in the CS classes. And we also asked for some contacts on the school and district level to make sure the program goes smoothly. Going forward, Tonya, just wrap it on out. I think we got 3 minutes.
There we go.
Yep.
All right. So our application cycle has begun for schools for the 21-22 school year. So we do ask that you select the curriculum and recruit the teachers. So we are looking now at campuses and identifying who on the campus can teach. And so if you are a classroom teacher and you'd like to teach computer science, we encourage you to reach out to us and to reach out to your administration to make sure that they are aware that you would be interested. We prefer to have a district contact, a classroom teacher, and of course, a building level or school administrator. We begin our school interviews in January and February, and we do ask, like I'm going to mention, that you schedule that class during the beginning of the day at the top of the hour. We ask the schools to help us recruit and enroll students. Those 8th grade nights and some of those personal graduation plan meetings are happening toward the December, January, February timeframe, and we want to make sure that our students are selecting computer science as an option. So if you are interested, or if you are a building administrator, start thinking about your faculty and who might be able and willing. And actually, let's take out able. Who would be willing, right? That's the big thing, because that's why we exist. If we take a willing teacher and make them an able teacher. So now is the time. And the next screen has the link. So in Aldine, if you are an Aldine teacher, make sure Shayna knows your name and what building you're in. I'm going to go on a limb. I think I'm way out of my jurisdiction, but if you want to change levels and you want to teach high school CS, I would encourage you to reach out to Shayna and see how we can get you involved in a cohort to get that CS certification.
Yes.
Really, that's the key. That's the hinge. Then we're going to leave this up. We have a questions slide that was coming
Yes.
up next, but I think
So
I'm
I'm gonna tell them, and I put on the screen already. Thank you. Let's all give a round of applause, a virtual round of applause to both of these ladies. We have less than 60 seconds
sorry.
before the next session, but I will tell you, we actually have 30 seconds. You guys did an incredible job. Thank you all. I also want to say, if you did not know the secret word for
Yeah,
this
that's
session
how cool
is
I say.
learn. I did place it on the screen. I'm going to put it again. And they have another session following this one specifically for questions. So definitely, if you want to stay on, do. We are past our time. Thank you all. We did a great job, ladies. First session went smoothly.
Yeah.
And everybody for attending, we hope to see you. Enjoy the rest of your day. If this was your one session, if not, jump on, check my Twitter or the hashtag for the whole CS stream and all of the sessions that are happening today. Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank
everyone.
you.